Okay, so my name is Charlie. I've been on the sales team here at CleanCloud now for about 2 years. I think just under 2 years maybe. I've met Charles once, but I'm based in London myself. As I mentioned in the beginning, my accent probably gives that away a little bit. But yeah, I've been in the CleanCloud sphere now. Works with a lot of laundry businesses, US, global, and so. But mainly Charles. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I got into the laundry space in like 2012, and I just kind of put my toes in the water, so to speak. I had a very little store, had it for about a year, and it got completely destroyed by a hurricane. And at that point, I kind of said, well, I like this. Let me look around to see, if there's a store for sale. And I started looking in another state, Delaware, didn't find anything, and I ended up where I was renting. My washer broke. I had to go to a local laundromat, and what did I do? I went on Google and found one that was around the corner, and that is the one that I ended up making a deal to purchase with like, about a year and a half later, and it's been pretty much an adventure since then. Now we have like several stores up and down the Jersey coast here, and a very large pickup and delivery operation. Probably the largest in the state. And, it's been an exciting journey, and there's been ups, there's been downs, and, you learn a lot going through it all.
Wow. Okay, and that hurricane on that first little store, that just completely wiped it out.
Yeah, you could say it was washed. So,
Charles, no, you can't.
and I use that pun many times.
Washed right forward.
But yeah, no, I mean, and again, this is one thing too that you learn, when you're purchasing a store, make sure you have the right insurance. That area never flooded in 100 years, but it was once in 100-year storm, and it took it out. So,
wow. Have you guys faced any serious hurricanes since that?
Since that, no. Since that, it's been pretty good. I mean, normally we don't get a lot. Literally every once in 100 years we'll have like a pretty bad storm, but that's it.
Okay, good. Well, hopefully none obviously soon.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, in terms of marketing, why everyone's here, I think it'd be good to speak a little about how you first got into marketing and really its importance in your opinion and views.
Sure, yeah. So my background really started in like the world of politics and communication, and I was like the guy that you would hire if you were running a political campaign and you wanted to basically market your campaign, and you wanted to go after the guy or lady running against you and really sock it to them. So that was basically my expertise. So I went to school for communications, marketing, and kind of during that time, with political jobs, you would have a job. After the election, you wouldn't have a job, and then you would go look for a job for the next candidate. And kind of in between that, that's when, again, my washer broke, and I ended up in the laundry business. And, the store that I bought, another lesson here, had a really bad lease. And the store was doing, good numbers, but the lease was just so crazy, and the increases kept going up with the rent. I had to find ways to get, more customers and more revenue in. So the previous owner actually had some really bad postcards made. Like, they were probably the worst designed postcard you could ever think of. It was like a horrible green color background and just text scattered throughout the postcard. No planning, nothing. Just like they threw words on the postcard. So this is all I had when I took over the business. I had boxes of these horrible postcards, and I said, well, I have them. I might as well mail them. And obviously that did not give me a great result. So I began looking, and, I wanted to increase my self-service business because, hey, it's a laundromat. That's what I thought to do. And, with the laundromat business, as you all know, there's pretty much a set demographic. The only real marketing that you're going to be doing is to kind of get people who recently move in. And with the laundromat space, that's important because about 30% of our customers are renters, and they move every year. So we need to reach out to those people constantly. So how do I get more money? So I said, all right, I'm going to advertise my wash and fold service. Our store is called Fluff and Fold. It's a very good name. So that was the early days of Facebook. I would do lots of posts on Facebook. And back then, it went out to everybody who liked your page. That was before Facebook tried to monetize everything. So it started growing and growing. I'm like, oh, wow, this is great. And then the next logical step was pickup and delivery. And the best way to describe it, like we were doing it back in 2014 and 15, was, well, if we felt like doing it that day, we would come pick it up. There was really no set schedule. There was really no system. We were running it through like our point of sale system. And I literally had like a whiteboard where we would tape tickets to. And as time went on, we digitized that and had an actual booking system online where people could, place an order and schedule a pickup and pay. And that's really how our growth started. And pushing that business really helped us to get to the cash flow that we needed. And again, I love marketing, so I got to market my own business. And that marketing love, evolved. And me and my buddies, we started a marketing agency for laundromats in 2021 called Suds Digital. Yes. So now we service, a lot of clients all over the country. And, it's great. It's great working with them. And, I love, marketing is you're telling a story, right? You're telling your brand. And, to help people do that is really good. And that's what we're going to do here today. We're going to help everybody here to tell your story and help you get more customers and, get the most out of the customers that you already have.
Of course. I want to go back to something quickly, which you just said was quite interesting, because I speak to quite a lot of different types of businesses who serve quite a lot of different types of customers as well. You mentioned there, obviously, you put on a booking tool onto your website where you could take card payments for online as well. And that was where the growth started, you said. What was the initial feedback that you got from your customer base when you allowed that online portal for ordering orders?
Yeah. So, again, and like before this, I had like a simple form on my website too, where someone could, put it in. And I thought, all right, this is fine. Like my form's fine. Like what's the problem, right? We'll call them to get the credit card info and whatever else we need. But, always look at everything from the customer's perspective, right? You want to see it as they see it, and you want to remove friction. So having a form like that, makes friction. But when you have a booking tool like CleanCloud has, there's no friction because the customer can go in there, they can set their preferences, directions for the delivery driver, they can add their credit card securely, and it streamlines the whole process. So it makes that friction go away. And then like the other big change that I did also was we used to have basically a 2-day turnaround, and then we made it next day. And that had a real impact because, people want their clothes back right away. There's a little bit of, let's say, separation anxiety, right? So, if you're currently doing like a 2-day turnaround for standard laundry, I would really encourage you, make that next day delivery. Don't wait, 2 days for regular laundry items. Get it back to the customer right away, and that will really help them choose your service over some of your competitors.
Wow. So that express day, that was a big turnaround for you in terms of finding customers really using your services more.
Exactly. Like, like something you just said, like, with the express service. So in CleanCloud, you can set like an express fee, like if you wanted to make it like a rush delivery. So, you could have, for example, your standard turnaround time be, 2 days. But if someone wants it that very next day, you could have your business model be, well, all right, if you want it the very next day, hey, it's, $3 more or $5 more, whatever it is. But again, I would definitely encourage people to offer that, that next day service in some manner.
And you've not found that the additional fee for that express service turn off customers?
So for the way that I run my business model, I do it automatically next day, just for convenience purposes and streamline. But I've seen operators who have, very large operations where they would do that express fee for next day. And they let the customer choose. If somebody is on a budget, they can wait, an extra day. But if they do really want their clothes the next day, and I think most people do,
Yeah.
they'll opt in for that next day choice.
Interesting. Okay. I know something that I've heard quite a lot in terms of that booking tool for online as well, whilst we're on that topic, is that they say the demographic of their customers wouldn't use that sort of thing. They like calling in, they like texting in, they like that sort of personal. How would you deal with, hearing that sometimes people who use your services like to call you?
Okay. Yeah, so one of the changes that we also made during this, let's say, online transition was, there was some people we accept cash payments from. And we basically went to all credit card and say, we're not taking cash anymore. Now, a lot of these people gave us a credit card. Some of them complained, and, a few of them didn't want to use us anymore. Now, you can't make your business please every single person, because you're not going to. It's impossible. But if you can service 90% of the customer base and service them very well, then focus your business on that. And like you were saying, this older demographic, everybody now has a debit card. So using that online tool, we have senior citizen communities that we service, and a lot of them, they go online themselves and set it up. Now, some of them do call in, and we help them place that order and get their account set up. But a decent amount of them use that tool and create the pickups themselves.
Fantastic. Okay. I know my granddad, he always asked me to go around to his house to fix his printer. So that's a little bit beyond him. Fantastic. Okay. And that's super interesting. Earlier you mentioned Facebook, so social media presence. That's something that I'm also quite curious about. How important have you found that just having a social media presence actually is?
Sure. So I think there's kind of different perspectives of looking at it, right? Are you using this as like a purely advertising tool to get customers into your stores or to create an account with you? Are you using this just for brand awareness? The kind of the main thing is if you look up any company, I do this myself, you probably do it as well.
Yep.
You'll look at their website, but you'll probably check out their Instagram and their Facebook as well. Because why do you do that? You do that because you want to kind of validate this company. Like, who are they? What's their story? How long have they been around? Are they serving their customers well? And you go through and you see their posts, you see their videos, you see a little bit about how they do things, how they operate, the products that they have, the services that they offer, and it fits into your whole online presence. So having an active social page is great. If you go on someone's Facebook or Instagram and they haven't posted in 6 months, it's like, well, wait a minute, are these guys still in business? Are they still serving their customers? It's kind of, a question mark. Keep it consistent, whether it is posting only once a week. Just do that. You don't have to post every day. In fact, I would tell you, don't post every day, because nobody's going to be looking at it every day.
Yeah.
If you could do at least once a week, that would be beneficial. And then there's the paid side of Facebook, which is a different animal in of itself.
I'd like to touch on that in just a tiny little bit. In terms of video content, do you create video content for yourself or for your business?
Yeah, no. So, I always love doing videos. So we do a lot of videos in our store. My team helps produce those videos. We film them. And, for example, like that store that I first bought, it had a really bad lease. So we ended up having to move that laundromat. Now, you really don't move a laundromat, but it was so bad, we had to do it. And we're thinking, how do we tell our customers we're moving and not have it kind of be a surprise? Well, we did it all through video, and we did it like, oh, this is the process of us building the store. And we did everything from cutting the concrete in the floor to why we chose these washers. Why are you pouring, a 16-inch concrete slab? Well, the washers spin so fast, they're going to dry your clothes and you're going to be out the door fast, right? So you want, again, everything don't look at it from, the industry perspective. Look at it from your customer's perspective. If you're walking down the street and you tell somebody, hey, I have washers that spin at 400 Gs, they're probably going to say, well, so what? Who cares, right? But if you say, hey, my washers, they spin so fast, your clothes are going to be dry in record time and you're going to be out that door in like 45 minutes. Well, now you have a benefit for the customer. Now they're interested. They don't know, and frankly, they don't care how many G-forces your washers spin at. Some of us laundromat guys might talk about that, but our customers don't care. They just want to know that they're in and out of your store, in under an hour, and that their clothes are coming out super clean because your washers are spinning that fast.
And you use the video content to be able to leverage that message.
Exactly. And the best way to tell a story is with video. Yes, you can do pictures and stuff like that, but the best way is video. And video is real. Everybody likes AI and everything like that, but laundry is like a personal thing, and you want to put your face on it as the business owner. Maybe you're not comfortable with that. Maybe there's somebody in your store who is a little more comfortable doing that, and then do it with that person. But you need to be able to tell your story and have that conversation with your customers.
Okay, so you'd really leverage who you are as a person behind the business as well, and play into that. You think customers like that? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Like, we have like flyers that like our drivers hand out and stuff like that, and on the back of the flyers, there's like a cutout of like myself on it, right? And it's just let me Photoshop like the white background, so it's just me standing in a shirt.
Very nice.
The other day I was in the store and I happened to be wearing like the same exact shirt, the same pants, and there's a guy sitting at the front counter and he's looking at the flyer and then he's turning and like looking at me and like going back and forth, and like he holds the flyer up. And I go, I'm even wearing the same shirt.
I haven't washed this in 4 days. I don't take these clothes off. Yeah.
I never took them off. I'm a little caricature.
I sleep in these clothes. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Interesting. So yeah, very nice. I completely agree. Video is by far, it just adds that personal touch, doesn't it? It tells the customers who the people are who are behind the business.
Exactly. And, it's the most consumed content, on mobile devices, whether it's like YouTube Shorts and Instagram or Facebook Story or Reel, that's where people are consuming it. And, it definitely benefits you to make your content in that format.
Would you say it's quite useful for people to do it on every platform possible? YouTube Shorts, Facebook Shorts, Instagram, TikTok, or just commit really heavily to one platform, do you think?
I would say, everybody always wants to do everything, and pick what you're good at. Pick like your niche. Like for me, I like Facebook and Instagram. Like Mark Hunterbrinker, he's on here. He has Simply Clean Laundry out in St. Louis. He has a really big thing on TikTok, and he has, people looking thousands of views on his videos for cleaning lint. That's his thing,
Riveting stuff, I gotta be honest.
But people are engaging with that, Again, pick your form of medium, whether that is, something that's kind of, basic, like, Google Ads where there's no video, right?
Yeah.
Or whether that's Meta, being Facebook and Instagram or TikTok, or maybe YouTube. Like Joe Dan Reed from Splashing Out, he loves YouTube. He's really big on YouTube. Everything he does is on YouTube, right? So pick what your niche is and focus on that, because it's hard to be a master of all trades. Pick your thing and stick to it is my advice.
It probably lends as well, because I know different demographics or different ages at least, use different platforms. I just saw a question in the chat. Jana asked, how would you suggest reaching an older demographic? Would you still look at, social shorts, or would you, I don't know if my grandparents are using YouTube Shorts. Would you still try and leverage those sorts of short form or at least social content for older generation?
So I think, the content really is the key, right? That like the basis of the question is the content is the key, right?
Yeah.
The targeting that we do now, you know, basically, you know, whether you use a company like that I have, you know, we know who we're targeting, or if even you do it yourself, the basic systems within Meta will figure that out for you on a basic level.
Okay.
So the content really is that important thing. So again, you know, when I was doing political campaigns, right, we would segment everything possible. Like, what does this person care about the most? Okay. And we will make, back then, it was a mail piece for this person that is the issue that they care about. Yeah. And we would send that message to that person. So if you're having an older audience, right, you know, there's different ways to go about that audience. You could go after their children, for instance, right? And you could say, you know, don't let your parents worry about laundry anymore. We offer a convenient pickup and delivery service, right? That's one messaging that you could do to get that older demographic. And you're going kind of around it. You're going to their children. And that older demographic, you know, you could maybe bring up, you know, ease and convenience, or like the struggle of going down to the basement to do laundry. You know, you could make it a slightly of a safety issue, or, you know, you have better things to do with your time. You know, you could spend time with your grandkids. Yeah. So as far as reaching them, you know, again, I see older folks that have Facebooks and Instagrams all the time. Yeah. So it's not just like, you know, this is a young kids thing. You know, a lot of older folks have Facebook. You know, one of my high school teachers, you know, she unfortunately just passed away, but she was like almost 90 and she was on Facebook all the time. Oh, wow. You know, so, you know, people are on there. And again, pick your demographics. You know, even though everything is digital today, you know, if there is a senior citizen community, maybe you have, you know, a nice flyer made, and it's, you know, again, if the message is tailored to that senior customer, and you hand those flyers out in that community, you could, again, make that Facebook video and target it to seniors. You could target it to, you know, the kids of seniors. Yeah.
Wow, interesting stuff. So everyone is still very much reachable. You can very much still reach every single generation. Interesting. Okay, so. I mean, that sort of leads into the next point, is the website. That's obviously one of the main platforms people, even myself, when I'm looking at anything, a restaurant, barber, whatever it is, the actual website is the first port of call. Is that a fair comment to make?
I think so. I think people are looking at, let's say, that Google business page. Okay. Then they're probably going to your website, and then they'll probably check out your social profiles, or it might be a slightly reversed. They might find you on social, check out your social profiles, and then go to your website. Okay. And then think of it this way: that website is your storefront. You know, just like you want to have the outside of your building look nice, your sign on your building look nice, you want to have that website look really, really nice. Yeah. And you want to have it look professional. You want people to see what you do. So you want to have photos on there. You want to have videos on there if you can. And you don't have to have a lot of videos. I mean, like on my site, I have one kind of intro video that gives like a little summary of kind of who we are, what we do, how long we've been in business. Kind of like just a general summary of us and our brand message. Then we have some pictures of our stores. And then we have dedicated pages for like our pickup and delivery service or in-store services. And, you know, again, when you're designing a website, you want to look at it through the customer's point of view, because they have never, ever seen you before. They have no idea who you are. You know your business inside and out because you're in it every day. And you think, oh, everybody knows my store. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the sad truth is, you know, not too many people know your store or my store, right? Yeah. And the first time they come to your website, it's the first time they probably ever really heard of you. So what is that first impression that you're making? So So again, you want to look at it through the customer's eyes. How easy is it to place that order? Because again, if you're doing a delivery business, we want them to sign up as easily as possible to place that order and to come back again and place a second order. And if it's for our in-store services, we want them to get directions very easy. If they have a question, can they contact us? Very easy.
Okay.
Make very few friction points and take away the fear of the unknown. Like when we design websites for our clients, that's like the big message that we like always tell all of our clients is, we're taking away the fear of the unknown for the customer, because they've never been to your store. And when they come to do laundry in your store, it's a personal thing and they have no idea what the inside of your store is like. So if they could see some really nice pictures of the inside of your store and some nice pictures of the outside and some pictures of the work that you do, now it's not so much a scary thing anymore. Now it's, hey, I know what I'm going to, I know where it is, and I know what to expect. And you have to deliver on the promises that you make, because you could have the best advertising in the world, but if it's not true and it's a lie, then it doesn't really matter. You're just going to get a lot of people really annoyed.
Okay, so you can have the services obviously to back up what you're saying online as well. That's super important. Okay. And in terms of social media marketing, or more Facebook and Google ads, I know this is a thing a lot of people are wanting to probably hear from as well. How would you find the importance of that links up to not only your website, but also your socials as well? Or at least what is your experience? We should probably ask first for your sort of, paid ads.
So, I think obviously the two big ones are obviously Google and Meta being Facebook and Instagram as a whole. It's really important to try to do both. It's also expensive to do both. Google will probably give you a better quality sign up, but Google it's expensive depending on your market. Like we see customers from all over the United States, right? So if you're in a big metro area where there's lots of competition, the cost per clicks are going to be really high, especially on like the delivery side. Whether you're in a more rural area, all right, it's going to be a little cheaper, but it's getting really expensive, especially on the pickup and delivery end. So like on Google, it could cost you maybe $100 to get a sign up, depending on what market you're in. So if you're only going to be spending $500 to acquire a customer, or to acquire customers for that month, what does that mean? That means, well, you're really only going to get maybe 5 to 7 customers, and you might think, oh, my ads aren't working, I'm only getting 7 customers. Well, they are working. It's just the cost of Google right now it's expensive. And again, those customers are a quality customer. It's just there's lots of competition for pickup and delivery. John and David talked about this in the podcast that they did with Jordan Berry about like the customer's first 100-day journey. And if people haven't seen that, you guys should go and look that up, because it's really, really worth seeing.
Is that on all platforms like Spotify as well?
I believe it's on you. I saw it on YouTube.
Okay.
I know it's on YouTube, and it's on Apple Podcasts. And they have it all over. But yeah, the one that I think, John and David, I think they did it maybe in like January, I think it was.
Okay.
On Jordan Berry's Laundromat Resources podcast. That is definitely worth looking at, because they basically explain the customer's journey from, seeing an ad, signing up, and then what happens after that process. And, they bring up this point of, advertising within Google is very competitive and very expensive. So that leads us to the second beast, that's Meta and Facebook and Instagram. So in there, it is less expensive to run. It's not people searching for a laundry pickup and delivery service or a laundromat, but you're sending your message out to the customers in your service area to build that connection and to build that customer base. And, if you don't have a lot of money to spend, then I would recommend starting with Facebook first and have that be as local to your storefront as possible. Because if you don't have a big budget, you want to kind of manage the area that you serve. And kind of the biggest issue that I see operators doing when it comes to advertising on Facebook, Facebook tries to make it as easy as possible, but Facebook is designed really for e-commerce businesses that ship things all over the country. So you have to be very careful when you're setting up your advertising within Facebook to make sure you're only targeting within the zip codes or the mile radius that you select. There's things like Advantage Plus advertising, right? You want to turn off all that audience, Advantage Plus audience. You want to turn that off because you don't want Facebook advertising outside of your service area, because then you're just wasting money. And I see it all the time. I get even really nice ads from laundromats in Georgia, Florida, California. Now, yeah, Facebook knows I like laundry, so they're serving me this ad, but I'm in New Jersey. I'm not going to be driving down to Georgia to do my laundry, nor if I book a pickup on your website in Florida, are you going to be coming up to my house to get my clothes? Yeah. So make sure you're serving ads within the actual radius that you serve. Again, there's companies like mine, Suds Digital, where we'll set that up. If you have questions, we can help with that too. And then there's even, ask questions in the CleanCloud community page on Facebook as well. If you're setting that up, you can take a screenshot, post it in there, and, there's a bunch of great people in that page that can help you set up those campaigns so you're not running those ads in other states, because that's the biggest mistake. And it's an easy mistake to do because Facebook will constantly push you to turn on that Advantage Audience Plus option, again, because they were designed as an e-commerce platform, really, for advertising.
Okay. That's really interesting. So keeping it local is really, really important. Keeping the ads local so people near you can actually use your services. It's a bit of a no-brainer, but I can see exactly how that might go amiss as well. I often get
like all the time, like, every day I'll be getting different laundromats, and I'll even send them a message being like, hey, your ad's running in New Jersey, if you need help, reach out to us, we'll help you.
The good old sales pitch, I love it. The good old sales pitch, I love it. Keep it local, keep it local. I mean, this is probably quite a broad question, so if you can't answer it properly, then no worries. But at what point do you think in someone's laundromat journey they should really start looking into paid ads? Because I get a lot of people asking me, what do you think? I'm at the point, I really want to grow my business. I want more customers. When should I start looking at getting into paid ads?
Yeah. I think, what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
I want customers, but I don't want to pay for customers. Well,
yeah,
you have to be creative, right? You have to do some form of marketing, right? Whether that's you're handing out flyers, whether you're creating content for Facebook, whether you're creating a Google Ads campaign. I would say if you're doing stuff on Meta, get that creative, get that content made first. Practice with it. Make some videos yourself. You don't even have to make it a paid ad. Okay. Just get in the habit of making that. So that way, when you do decide to spend some money behind it, it's not your first attempt doing it. Yeah. Even though you're making a let's say just a regular post on Facebook that probably most people aren't going to see, unfortunately, because that's how Facebook works.
Yeah.
But even though you're making that regular Facebook post, put the time and the effort into it as if this is a paid ad that a lot of people are going to see, because it's going to be that practice that you are going to need to do that. And again, if that's beyond your wheelhouse, there's companies like mine and others that can help you with that. But when you first start out, all right, you're starting out small, start with handing out flyers. If you're delivering to somebody, hand flyers out in that whole neighborhood. Yeah, you might not have the best response rate from them, but you're going to get some people, and you can build on top of that. And again, after you have that practice of making those videos, start experimenting with some paid ads on that end. Again, even if you are doing it on Google, you can do it in a small area. That's one way you can help control that budget that you have. Again, if you only have $500, again, Google is a very, very good tool, because those are people who are actually searching for your services. Set it maybe to one zip code that you service.
Okay.
That way, you're kind of getting a little more bang for your buck, because you're concentrating your ad spend in that area. Again, you might not have 1 million people sign up, but it's going to be all in one area. You're going to know, hey, people are signing up in this neighborhood because that's where I'm running ads.
Okay.
And your budget is focused.
Awesome. Okay. I mean, that is a great segue onto my next question almost, because a lot of what we've just spoken about is getting that customer through the door. A huge part, as you know, is keeping that customer using the services. This leads quite nicely onto my next question in terms of the actual marketing tools within the CleanCloud solution. Do you use any of our marketing tools within CleanCloud?
Yeah, no. So I think, again, that I see they posted the podcast here in the chat. So definitely go and watch that, because John and David go into this in detail.
Okay.
And I think I watched it maybe like 2 or 3 times.
Very nice.
It was really good. It was really good.
Yeah.
But again, you just paid a lot of money to get this customer, right? You probably spent close to $100 to get this pickup and delivery customer. Or even if there's somebody who comes into your store, it doesn't matter, right? You're still paying. If they came into your store, you're still probably paying $30 or so to get them into your store. You spend this money, you already have them in your system. What do you do now, right? Yeah. So the one thing that I really like about CleanCloud is you have basically 2 tools now. One is the automated marketing tool, and the one is the marketing flow tool that just came out. And you can set up the customer's whole journey from that point of sign up. And you can even set it up like, all right, hey, if the customer doesn't place an order, this is what I want to happen. And then you can have a different one set up to, all right, the customer now has completed that first order. Now, what do I want to happen? And again, this goes to kind of what I was saying before. What is that story that you're telling, right? Because how are you different? How are you different than your competitors? You want to tell those differences, and you want to tell your story, because if the customer doesn't have that connection with you, there's really no loyalty. People rather do business with other people than a faceless corporation, because people like other people, and laundry is a personal thing. So you want to try to make that connection with your customers and explain, hey, we're a local family business. We've been in business for 15 years, and then tell a little bit about your differences. Maybe you charge by the pound and your competitor charges by the bag. Well, explain. Your customer doesn't know why your model is better than the others, and explain why your way of doing it is better for the customer. Again, everything, tell it from the customer's point of view. That's one thing I want to hit home is, what is your perspective? You can't put on your glasses of, hey, I'm the business owner and I see everything in my business and in my industry. Look at it from the person that has no idea who you are, no idea about the laundry industry. if you're on this webinar, you're a laundry nerd, you talk about this all the time, right? Your customers don't. Your customers don't care if you're by the bag, if you're by the pound, if you charge per sock, just explain why your way of doing business is better for the customer, how you're different, what's that comparison.
Okay.
And again, it's also about trust. You want to build trust with that customer. You want to say why you're an expert in this industry. So there's different ways of doing that. You can have blog articles on how to, remove stains, best practices for washing your comforter. How often should you wash your comforter? Most people don't really wash their comforter that much. That's pretty nasty.
Yeah.
I mean, when was the last time you washed your comforter? Come on.
Hey, whoa, wait.
My point, right?
Hey. Don't get all first
point, right?
Right?
I mean, I have an ad where I literally talk about, hey, you wear your pants, you clean your pants. But it's like, of course, you're going to clean your pants. It's like saying, oh, well, I don't need to clean my pants. They're not that dirty. It's the same thing with your comforter. And again, tell your customers the story, educate them. It's like, you spend over 8 hours a day sleeping in your bed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, all the sweat and the germs that are in that comforter. Don't you want to clean it?
Making me want to use your services, Charles. So in terms of how does that then relate to, so when you've painted that sort of journey and that picture for the customer, how does that then relate to getting them to use your services again?
Yeah. So let's home in on that customer journey part, right?
Yeah.
So, you want to build trust. So you can do that through something like I just said. You're doing some blog articles, showing how you're an expert, whether that's tips on cleaning your comforter, things like that. Maybe you're sharing reviews or testimonials, right? So you're building trust. And also, within CleanCloud, this is something that I kind of changed around once I saw the new marketing flows, right? You can set up, different categories or sections, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
So you have your laundry, your dry cleaning, and let's say a bedding section, right? So you can set up different automations to say, hey, we notice you haven't had, your comforter cleaned in the past 2 months. Here's, $5 off to it. Or you don't even have to give them an offer. You can just give them a gentle reminder about it. Because the big thing is, when people sign up for whatever reason, and this is kind of the industry standard. I talk to people who have really large operations, bigger than myself. The industry standard is around 50% usage rate. And when I say usage rate, I mean someone signs up on your website and they actually go ahead and place an order.
Yeah.
So that's kind of low.
Yeah.
So all these automations that CleanCloud has, you can set these up to help increase that utilization rate. Before we implemented any of these automations, our utilization rate was around 40%. And I knew it was low. After we implemented it, it's up to where it should be around 50%. And with the new booking tool that David came out with, a few weeks ago, that also bumped up our utilization rate because again, it's easier for a customer to place an order.
Okay.
So out of those customers that sign up, right, half of them, it's going to be really hard to get them to place an order. One thing, you could call them, right after they sign up, call them, hey, do you have any questions? Just wanted to thank you for signing up. You can give us a call, text us back, as many points of contact you can make from that first point of signing up that are personable are very good. And then the second very key thing is after that person places their first order, another almost 50% of them will not place a second order.
Okay.
Whether they just placed that order because their washing machine broke that week, maybe they came back from vacation and they had a lot of laundry, or you know what, maybe they thought the service is more expensive than what I was thinking, you know. So you can use those automation tools to help, you know, reach back out to those customers saying, hey, you know what, you know, again, maybe to that person that has the criticism of, oh, you know, I didn't think it was going to be that much. Well, one answer could be, you know, if you have kind of like a general summary message for customers saying, hey, you know, like this is what to expect for your first order. Maybe one of your points is, you know, on your first order, you're going to send more laundry in than normal, because normally first orders tend to have more laundry because people have put it off and they stockpiled it, right?
Awesome.
And now they really need the service, right? So they're sending a lot more than what they would normally have on a weekly basis.
Okay.
So we try to give our customers a heads up saying, hey, you know what, your first order probably is going to cost you a little bit more than normal. So try to use those automations.
Both text and email do you use? Do you do it on both text and email?
So like the more like maybe the how-to or like the tips kind of things, we do it in email. And then let's say like on the welcome side and maybe like the discount offer to get them to push them to actually do an order, that we'll do on text. But the more like, let's say educational ones, we'll do on email, just because the format is better. And like, you know, with like CleanCloud, you know, there's the email template tool. So like we'll make some custom graphics, put them in there, and then we'll use a template tool to build really nice email templates with book now buttons and even things like, you know, to leave reviews and stuff like that.
Very nice. I know we're coming up on time now. We're going to do some questions shortly. One last question. If you could give some advice to the people in the chat or to people watching this on YouTube afterwards, looking to start their own sort of marketing strategy, one piece of simple advice. I know you've sort of gone into it already today, but what would it be?
I mean, I guess we'll kind of break it down into a few things. So, you know, again, look at everything through your customer's perspective, as if they have never heard of your business at all. Look at your business from the outside in, and then get practice doing it, right? You know, if you're doing Facebook ads, you know, before you start paying for ads yourself or paying for a company to do it for you, get practice at making those videos, taking those photos yourself. You know, if you're in your store, you know, use your camera on your iPhone. You know, if you're just starting out, chances are you're probably the delivery driver, right? Well, this is a perfect opportunity. You know, if you're at someone's house, they have your branded laundry bag there, you know, take a really nice photo of that, maybe take a little video of that, you know, get practice making these videos, and start small. And again, think outside of the box. You know, you don't want to necessarily copy your competitors. You want to draw a contrast on how you're different and why you're better. So maybe that's, you know, your local business that's right in the community. You know, your family owned. You know, tell your story, why someone should choose you over somebody else.
Very nice. I like it a lot. Very nice. Well, thank you very much for all of that. Super interesting. We could talk about this for hours. I know we've got so much more to speak on, but for now, we'll sort of wrap up there. We're going to open the floor to some questions we've got in the chat. I know there's been a lot of questions being flying around. We've got about 7-8 minutes or so now. So if anyone's got any questions for Charles or myself, if you've got any questions, Mark, I'm sorry, we could do another 2 hours or so if you want to. Any questions on the CleanCloud tools, on how to use them to marketing strategies in general, please put them in the comments now, and we'll try to answer as many as possible. I did see one up top, if I don't see any questions come through too much, I was quite interested to ask, which was marketing for commercial versus residential. How do you handle that? And quickly onto that.
Again, I think it's more so on the content side that you make. You know, again, because Meta, all these guys, it's really hard to focus on, just, a commercial niche.
Yep.
So it's better to make, an advertisement for, doing commercial laundry. Or if you have a nice little brochure that you have, that's something great. Your drivers can leave in different businesses, or if you're out and about, you can leave in different businesses.
Yeah.
That I think is one way to do it.
Okay, very nice. We've got another question from Andrew here. How much do you budget per month for meta ads per laundromat? That's an interesting one.
So I think, again, it depends what you want to do. I would say if you're doing like just in-store operations, so drop off in store, self-service in store, I would say kind of the minimum you would want to spend is $300.
Yeah.
And that you could also set up to be just retargeting people who come to your website.
Yeah.
If you're doing pickup and delivery with that, I would say the minimum you would want to spend is at least $1,000 a month on that.
Very nice. Okay, $1,000, very nice. I can see everyone's wanting more hours. Sorry, guys. I think we may need a part 2 coming soon. There's one question I have, which maybe I could. Any more questions in the chat, guys? Please put them in. I'm going to quickly just jump in again. Do you have any new marketing ideas that you think that you'd like to try in the future? Anything that you haven't tried yet?
I think everything is always changing in a way, right? Yeah. And I think you always want to have like your bread and butter, right? You need your Google, you need your Meta, and then you can experiment with different things. Whether if you want to try maybe mailing or doing like a referral program. A referral program is a really great way to drum up business, right? Because you already have customers who are happy. If you make that your focus, that's probably a really low cost way to achieve, customers. And most likely those referral customers are probably going to be repeat customers, which are better than, most of the signups you're going to get online from running general advertising. I would say stick to, kind of what works, which is, Google and Meta, and then do the traditional forms of advertising that everybody forgets about. Your kids are going to the local school. Why aren't you donating a big gift basket with a gift certificate for your services, maybe some free laundry bags in there and some other things that are not laundry related, because people just don't want a big basket of soap, right? Do things like that. If there's a little league or soccer team that your kids are on, well, they all have like banners around the side of the field. Why aren't you sponsoring one of those banners with your store's name on it and a big QR code for people to sign up for your delivery service? So I think do the things that are proven, and then go to those things that everybody forgets about now, which is like those local grassroots marketing methods.
Using the people, again, people like people. So Exactly what you're saying. Do you offer a referral scheme through CleanCloud?
Yeah, so we do basically 30-30. So the person who refers that gets 30, and the person who is referred gets the 30. And out of the people that are referred, a lot of them stay around and they place a bunch of orders. And again, you can build that into that new automated marketing flow. So hey, after that person is, let's say, at maybe order 3, all right, they use the service, they like it, why don't you have an email go out to them with like your referral message saying, hey, you love our service, we'll give you $30 for every person that you refer, and by the way, your friend also gets $30, or whatever dollar amount you want to give. So you can build that into the automated tools, and again, that doesn't cost you anything more than the $30, and really it's not real $30, it's a credit.
Of course. Very nice. Well, I think that's us out of time. Everyone's saying keep it going. Part two.
Thank you, everybody.
To everyone. Let me quickly share my screen just to give you guys a bit more info here. So yeah, Charles, speak to people on like how they can reach you after this if they do. Yeah, I think there's your Instagram and Facebook, right?
Yeah. So if you go to like my store name is Fluff and Fold Laundry, so you can reach me on there. Also, Suds Digital is the other marketing company that we have. Find me on Facebook. You can find me personally on Facebook too. So if you find me on there, you can send me a message. I'm in the CleanCloud community group all the time. And, you know, if you're not a member of that group, I would really encourage you to join that. You know, we talk about everything in there, not just marketing. We talk about everything from laundering stuff, what to do with delivery routes and all sorts of things. So I definitely recommend joining that group. And there's a lot of other great people in there like Jeff Monk, you know, so I would definitely say, come on in there and, you know, we can all help you guys out.
I'm just reading the comments now about they're saying that the beard makes a man. I can't speak for myself. The beard makes a man. I don't think you can either, Charles. We're a little bit lacking in that industry. Yeah, it's a little bit showing us up there, guys. In terms of if you guys want to reach me, my email is charlie@cleancloud.com. That QR code takes you straight to book some time with me. If you guys currently use the system and you have any sort of questions, please use the email in the middle, am@cleancloud.com. That'll take you straight to the account management team. Those guys will look after you super well. But any questions you have on anything that we've spoken about, either shoot Charles an email or me an email, charlie@cleancloud.com. Is your email on there, Charles? What's your...
No, it's not. If you you guys could email me at fluffandfoldllc@gmail.com, but I would say that probably the best way to get me would be on my Facebook page. You know, my personal one, you can find me on Facebook there, or you can reach out to me from either Fluff and Fold or Suds Digital on our Facebook pages there as well.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right, guys. Well, we're going to end that there. Thanks to everyone for joining. It's been super fun. Again, we could have spoken this about for hours, but hopefully everyone's found something interesting from here. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. And
thank you, everybody.
See you guys on Facebook hopefully soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.